Bonjour, Melinda in Indigenous Cause. My name is Melinda, and I'm welcoming you to Environmental Science Online. I can be reached by my email, which is here on the screen, and you'll have access to my cell phone, text messaging, and so on. So never be afraid to reach out and say hello, ask a question, or tell me something cool that's going on. So we're going to take a little bit of time this week as we get through the add drop period. And a lot of students who may not have had a chance yet to register to get into the class. But that doesn't mean you don't have anything to do. We're going to go through some introductions and orientation. I'm going to hopefully get to know you this semester, even though we're not meeting in person. So, first off, what is environmental science? Why is it important? And what are some of the real world challenges that we have coming at us? I know many of you are in this course because it's required, but I hope that together in our exploration of the material that you will see how much it affects your everyday life and the life of your children. So hopefully by the end, I'll have a few folks considering a career in environmental science. So back to that first question, what is environmental science? I have a very particular definition that I like, and I would like you to learn it as well. Environmental science is an interdisciplinary systems approach to studying the Earth that integrates physical, biological, information sciences and is focused on anthropogenic effects on ecosystems. Let's break that down. So, interdisciplinary means that it takes more than just ecologists or biologists or virologists. We also need our statisticians, our politicians, our social sciences to be involved in our exploration of environmental science because we all work within a system. And that's kind of like the westernized way of saying we're all connected. You can't work independently on one part of the world and not have repercussions for the health, well being, and ecology of another part. And that's what gets us to this specific definition of anthropogenic effects. Anthropogenic or man made effects are those that are caused by our activity. That's a little bit separate than the ecology of other species that we share this planet with. And so we look at the physiology, the biology, the chemistry, and information that we can get out of those systems and see what we can learn and how we can solve the challenges in front of us. Now, I made this diagram showing how we can see some interrelatedness of different aspects of environmental science. I mean, soil and agriculture, well, soil health and food production, that's environmental science. Geology and geochemistry, think of mining, right? Life sciences and social sciences, how does our environment affect human well being? These are all parts of environmental science. Now, what environmental science issues are important to you? We're going to explore that this week. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. I grew up in Morris, Minnesota, which is about 3 hours south of here. It was me, my mom, and my brother. And I figured out early on that working in the trades, meaning plumbing, electrical, roofing, um, provided more wages for me to bring food home. We were very poor. And I started college right there in Morris at the University of Minnesota. But after a couple of years of being tired, poor, and hungry, and not knowing what I wanted to do with a degree, I dropped out. It was a long time before I got back to college. So I was a college dropout. Shortly thereafter, I moved to Duluth, Minnesota, where I did property management for Women's Transitional Housing Coalition, working with homeless families. Then my grandfather needed help. And so I moved in with him and was his caretaker for a few years. And in southwestern Minnesota, there's not a whole lot to do outside of going back and finishing that darned 4 year degree. And so I got my bachelor's, my grandfather's health improved, and I figured out that I loved science and that to really make a difference in this world, I wanted to teach science. And to do that, I had to go to grad school. And so I went to grad school at the University of Maine, which is way up over here. And I was out in Maine for 10 years before moving back to Bemidji. And in that 10 years, I became a geochemist. What's a geochemist? Well, geochemistry is the study of the chemical composition and processes of soil, air, and water. It's a type of environmental scientist. And as that type of environmental scientist, my career has looked at water quality, acid rain, mercury contamination, land use, climate change, and legacy pollution issues. So I've put my education to work trying to solve some of these challenges. And then I moved up here to Bemidji back in 2012 or so. I adjunct instructed at BSU for 2 years, and then I've been at the tribal college now for 5. I love it here. I love my job at the tribal college. I love the students I work with. I love the research I get to do. Everything from microplastics to climate to frogs and worms, believe it or not. Um, so we're going to look at some of those projects that we have going on here at the college. We've got some great environmental research that's happened here. Raven Miller started our microplastics project back in 2017, I think, and she identified microfibers in every single sample of sediment we took from 3 lakes, knowing that we use a lot of plastics and they are starting to accumulate in our lakes. Colin Eagle, who is going to graduate from BSU this spring and start his master's project or his master's program, has worked with me for a couple of years. He looked at forest and forestry issues, and he designed the next stage of our microplastics research was actually looking at how many pieces of plastic are in our surface waters. He also did some other work with the Chippewa National Forest and the Division of Resource Management. Anita Cloud worked on many projects, including designing research on looking at biodiversity of frogs and toads with respect to how much development was going on there. So we've got a really great program of research and community activism going on. And this semester, you're going to have a chance to actually do some type of community service as part of your grade in this class. The point of environmental science is to make things better, right? It's to fix things. It's to learn about how these problems occurred and what other alternatives we have for finding solutions. So you're probably, some of you, are thinking, well, I still don't see how this applies to me. If that's the case, I'm going to just take a minute here and go through news stories I found this weekend. Right, this is 2021. Last fall, we found out that 2019 was the wettest year on record. Well, I've had to update this slide for 2021 because we have just learned on Friday, basically, that 2020 is tied for the hottest year ever recorded. However, it's also the most people died and the most expensive due to the disasters fueled by climate change. So we're going to actually be able to watch some of this annual data come out in real time during this semester. You'll always see a lot of climate news, right? What about water news? We care about water, right? We just had a bunch of water protectors arrested near the Mississippi site where Line 3 is trying to drill underneath the river. Water is a big issue across Indian country and across Minnesota. So while Enbridge Line 3 has got permission to go ahead, our state government is actually looking at protecting water and water quality by protecting 1 million acres of new land into a conservation program. Now, you might think that's a bit hypocritical, but we're going to really take a look into it, into the data, into the politics and see why these decisions are being made and what other alternatives there might have been or are. The next thing is we got a D grade for the Mississippi water quality for 2019. And we actually do our first unit on the Mississippi River case study. And what we're seeing here is a good preview of what's coming up. And this was just published um, in December, right before Christmas, that our Mississippi River is really going to need some big solutions going forward. Agriculture and food, we all like to eat, right? So the news in the past 2 weeks, Biden vows to pay farmers to plant cover crops and put land in conservation. It sounds like growing less food, right? Well, less corn anyway. And that's a big part of why we're seeing the water quality problems in the Mississippi River. The flip side of that is we're finding new and innovative ways of growing a more sustainable food supply. In Unit 2, we'll find out that our food systems are not sustainable and that we do need to make some pretty big changes if we want to protect this earth for 7 generations. And finally, politics. I know we're 1 week into 2020 and I've had enough politics for the year. However, we can't separate environmental science from political science. Now, here's 2 examples. One, we just had this article this last week from MinnPost asking what Joe Biden's cabinet picks mean for northern Minnesota's Twin Metals mining project. Well, can't get much more political up here than that. And then finally, I kind of laughed at this because I'm not sure it's true, but some people are calling 2020 the climate election. I think that would be great if that were the case. I think it was just the previous administration had had its shot and had failed. And thus people voted President Trump out of office. But now we also see a change in leadership in the Senate. And I'm very curious what that's going to mean for our ecology and environmental integrity going forward. So I'm going to try to make the case to you that environmental science matters. So what are your next steps? Well, log into Canvas and follow all the links for week 1. At the bottom of each screen, there should be a little next button that will bring you to the next thing to do. You'll want to check your campus email daily for all your classes and further correspondence. Now, you might want to go through your Canvas settings and see which emails you actually want to get, or else you might be overwhelmed by the number of emails you're getting from Canvas each day. Always ask questions. If there's something you can't figure out, I'm here to help. And as part of this class, I'm asking you to check in with me on Zoom weekly. You can set the schedule, but I have set aside time for us to greet each other, to have conversations, to drink coffee, to troubleshoot Canvas or the YouTube channel or anything else. And so please look for an invitation for us to schedule that meeting time. It might not be just one-on-one. We might have groups of 2 or 3. And a couple times this semester, I hope we can all get together. But we'll announce that as that goes forward. Anyway, that's all I really have for right now. And welcome to Environmental Science Online. And I look forward to meeting and talking with you soon. Megwitch, Kikawabaman.